Related, because I think it's have we looked, is that going to happen in 2025?
I think they'd like it, at least have it designated. Yeah. A whole bunch of green lines for it.
Okay, so where the numbers from our public works?
Yeah, right.
So, because for example, fairly large water, because of the fire flow and sewage wise, I just don't know the infrastructure in that area. But what do we need a lift station? And that's not thought of. So I guess my question was.
So Brandon's looked at extensions to be required to that site. The lift station isn't required.
Okay, that's good.
There's actually a fairly new, when I say fairly new, I also thought the handy bus was fairly new. But there's a pretty new sewer water main that we pulled, I would say, 10 years ago from the plant all the way through there, and they end right now at the Bulk Water Station.
Yeah.
And they're intended East area to continue up there. So significant infrastructure to that point.
I just wanted to be sure that we should be thinking about it, check, and we've actually got some engineering and some science behind it, check, and
so I would say at this point we are thinking about it and put numbers to it.
good. Okay,
But we'll need to go further before we dig any holes.
Yeah.
So did I get your question around page 12? Sorry if I forgot already.
So just to be clear, none of us are saying we don't want to bring home
Yeah.
school. We're just looking at our budget, seeing money set aside, and also just confirming that that's what it's there for. And this is new to us, so we're learning that it is expected. I just want that known. Great, Councillor Ford.
That we've allocated $97,000 towards that type of thing. We haven't allocated more, you know. Like, we've kind of already got some for things like this.
Yeah, you have MR. That's how that. So when actually that's great. If I can point that out, see a whole bunch of lines in water, sewer, electrical, where it says utility extensions. 50% this, 50% that. Our 50% is coming from MR. It was set aside for these purposes. So when any school, if the West Wind came and said, we need a new facility, what is your ability? Well, what the JUPA is supposed to outline is to say, this is exactly what it is. Here's the number. And actually what the new, whatever you as a council set aside for school, particularly, school just has to ask for it. Cut the check, no questions asked. And that's how strong the legislation is. It is the school's money to request. So, yeah, we're just in a transition of how that is legislated and kind of working through that.
Thank you.
Other than that, so page 12 jumps to the revenue for capital, by the way. That's what this whole page is. It's a mess of things coming from reserves and from loans and from contributed assets and all kinds of things. But I think page 12 and 13 just fine. I think we can jump. We talked last about the capital, so aside from moving a few things around or changing the funding sources, we didn't change any of the capital projects. A couple pushed from 27 to 28 as we were doing the 5-year capital, so they went off of this sheet. I'll bring you the 5-year capital next. But other than that, pretty minor in the capital area. I think, Mary, you had a couple different questions.
So we talked a while ago about the fire truck.
Yeah.
And we anticipate that within the next so many years we will need one. Is that over here somewhere?
We've got 50,000 this year going into. So when I think we've got 160 in the account now.
By the time we get there, we
We
should.
should be really close. For our 45% or whatever we're on for, yeah. Get the exact number.
I mean, the cost, that's another interesting story.
So now I get to ask my water well question again. Can you show me where, have you got a new number, an updated number, progressing towards switching from surface water supply to groundwater?
All we have in this budget is we've moved the engineering money from 2024 to 2025.
Which is the test one.
Yeah.
So we didn't get to that.
No, we haven't seen Ken.
You get a driller. I guess I'm disappointed to see that we lost this opportunity because it's important out there. People complain for the summer about the quality of the taste and the odor of the surface water.
So we have some updates on that. I'll talk about.
Yeah, but that's a legitimate concern, and it's always pointed me, well, the culprit could very well be the supply of the water, which is surface. We're sitting on an aquifer, why don't we look at the aquifer? That's what I've always said. And we were going to do it, and because the driller couldn't get around to us, I would have said in July, switch drillers and find somebody from who knows where, so that we have this information, because I guess what I'm concerned now, we've lost the opportunity in 2025 to make some decisions about seriously looking at this. And we're still shooting in the dark because we don't know, although I suspect from my background that it could very well be a winner and it's worth pursuing, and we're not pursuing it quickly enough.
I understand your frustration.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to point the fingers at anybody in administration, but I guess if I had been, and I've done this, city engineer in a municipality, I would have said to the driller about July, when are you going to drill our test wells?
Can I jump to a suggestion on that? So my experience, you make a great point.
Yeah.
My experience is, like we can get on a list. It's just a waiting list, and if we were on 3 lists, about 3 drillers in work this area, we could be on all 3 lists.
Sure.
Whoever calls us first, the other guys are so far behind, it doesn't matter if we drop off their list. And we can save half a year doing that kind of approach.
And it's not just the drilling, it's also checking the quantity and the quality of the water to see if it's viable.
Come through that as a lab, they send it to the bottleneck is the driller.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you for that insight you bring forward. Thank you. Yeah, we cannot always do everything we want to do, doesn't it?
Bottom of page 15. This is just something I'm going to look at a little closer. Capital. We have Cardston there again, and that was because that's where they came up on the asset management plan, but the other ones were 3 years delayed to get to us, so we just got them this last year. And because next year is such a capital-heavy year at the golf course, I may push those. I've asked Josh, he's ordered quite a bit of parts for all our older carts, and I've asked him to work on those over this winter and give me an idea of how many good condition ones we have going in next year. So he's working on that for me.
I was just going to throw a recommendation. This could be a discussion, but we're putting all this money into replacing cards and to fixing cards. I think we need to look into fixing our cart paths, which are very rigid and bumpy. The roots of trees are just basically they're destroying the golf carts as we get them, and having to fix them. I just think we're investing money, and I know there are people out there that do golf courses. I don't know what it would cost for them to do all our cart paths to just make them more. You'd be surprised at how crazy it is out there, and people that their own personal carts, they have the town carts, they don't care, they just go with it. And I think it's something we could look into.
Good point, Councillor.
Other than that, so that's really through what we call the tax. So it's not utilities, and it's not. And so if you look on page 16, the very, very line, when we bring in the electrical profits, then we balance that budget. So it's at 0. And it's balanced for the next couple of years. So I just want to talk about a couple of things in the utilities budget. There's not any major things, but one of them has to do with taste and odor for water, so I want to talk about that. We moved some capital stuff around this year because of we got a recommendation back from negotiated on the taste and odor study. So I want to talk about how that impacted the items we had in the budget. So for some reason this starts on page 25, but that so we jumped from 16 to 25, but it's in orange, so orange on the left side. You'll see on our first use of operating funds, our customer care and a couple of our contracts with NMAX come due, and I've just started with NMAX to renegotiate. I don't know what those numbers look like yet. We just put in a little bit anticipating some increases, but I'm hoping to keep it really, really minor and that we don't need that extra 10 grand in there. But I just don't know yet. And we had kind of an early meeting yesterday where they hinted that they wanted to look at the rate schedules. And so this morning I told Jill, just put a little extra in there and then we'll go from there. On 2.503, still on this at the bottom of this page. This is not the big item, but let me just explain really quick. We got, so Associated for the year, tested the water in the raw water ponds and in the plant on a number of occasions. And they were able to identify, I don't know what you would call it, a chemical, it's called geosmin. And it's in most everyone's water. Over a certain level, you taste it. There's a certain human detection level. And above that level, it has a bad taste. I went and looked in this a little bit. When it rains and you smell that, that's geosmin. So that's what you're smelling when you get downpour of rain. And so when it's in the water over a certain level, you taste it. It has an off-putting taste. And so Associated looked at about 5 options to mitigate the levels of geosmin in the water. And they range everywhere from $1 million+ and down. And they recognize that too, right? Like ideally, here's a beautiful situation if you're building a brand new plant, all the way down to what we're planning on trying this year is an addition of hydrogen peroxide on the raw water side. So what happens is we bring water from the raw water reservoirs into a pump station, and we have the ability to inject peroxide at that point in time. It has a very short half-life, and it's gone quite quickly. And so by the time it gets to the plant, peroxide is fairly effective in removing geosmin. And so you'll see on that 241503, there's a $5,000 increase, which by the way isn't the whole project, but that would be what we'd spend in hydrogen peroxide over about a 3-month period. We probably try it in July, August, September. So that's when we see the most, we hear the most from residents about taste and odor in the water. And so, but where it complicated things just a little bit, as you might recall, last time I brought the budget to you, we had upgrades to the chlorine room at the water plant and a few other large, like $250,000 capital projects. The hydrogen peroxide impacts the chlorine treatment in the plant, and they don't get along well. And so what they were saying is we want to monitor how the peroxide impacts the chlorine before we spend a whole bunch of money on chlorine, because that was a big ticket item. Curtis thinks we can test the hydrogen peroxide for about $15,000 this year. We can test it and see how it does. And he's very, I met with him actually on Monday morning first thing. He's handed out the chlorine room improvements for a year, provided they stay in the budget, don't disappear. And they're still doing some design, and he wants to put the peroxide and the chlorine interact anyway, so that we don't go any good money after that. So what we've done in the budget is we've pushed the chlorine room stuff into 2026, because the other thing that I think just makes sense is that once the wastewater plant going and the money from the Alberta water wastewater grant is flowing, we want to apply to that grant again for all these upgrades needed for the water plant. So at least we send dollars, 50 cents. So that requires pushing those things off 1 year while we test peroxide treatment. To put in a permanent peroxide process would be $150,000 is what they think it would be to put that in. So right now we have actually have egress system in there for heat. So we have almost $500,000 worth of things we want to do in that plant. And we're thinking that would be better done with 50-cent dollars from the upper waterway.
Councillor Kendall?
I was just gonna say, is Associated saying that is the cause of the taste, or it could be? Like, are they definitive that
No,
this
that's,
was causing the odor?
yeah, so that's why geosmin levels
Just,
were, no, the testing showed the geosmin levels were in excess of the human detection limits, for sure. So we're tasting it. Absolutely.
So that's not what people are complaining about, you think?
That's what they're thinking it could very well be, is the geosmin levels, and the peroxide should not come down about 80%.
And so if the peroxide worked, in a sense,
Yeah.
is it cheaper to do this than to do the groundwater?
Well,
I don't know, right?
Right, well, we're gonna test and see if it actually provides the right levels on the other end of it all.
Gotcha. Okay.
Councillor Grainger?
So you're actually making my argument for me because we're faced with this kind of thing with the surface water. We have these issues with groundwater. That's why most water supplies preference in the country are groundwater over surface, because surface water is affected by surface environment. In this case, it's organics in the river water. So we had a groundwater supply, and it's got other issues that you've got to look into as well, like iron and manganese and some of those kinds of things. But I guess, and then you add to the problem of the odor and the taste and the quality of the water generally. You add to it that whole back flushing and maintaining a, I don't know how many kilometer line, from the river, up to the treatment facility, and it makes everything we can to investigate thoroughly the possibility of switching to groundwater. And I'm choked that we've lost a year.
Okay.
So my suggestion would be, yes, let's move the unspent engineering money, which is a test well, and can we not do that early in the year, in the fiscal, in 2025, because I just got a feeling that groundwater could be, like a panacea to our water issues for a whole bunch of reasons, and that I don't want to lose a year. Can we not put $100,000 of additional engineering over and above the well drilling money into this budget to keep going on the assumed successful? Otherwise, we'll lose a whole year and put the well drilling money in and not more. I don't want to lose the momentum.
Councillor Cole?
Just a quick question. Do you know of any other communities in the area that are using wells? You know of anybody we can talk to?
Moses Lake.
I don't know.
Moses Lake, their new system is a well.
It's not working.
Well, no, it's not working, not because the water isn't any good. It's working because
Just wonder if there's other ones in the area that you could talk to.
Yeah, most of our close neighbors around here are surface water.
Okay.
But
I'm not saying council, just don't know if there's other.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, my experience in BC and Yukon is virtually all
Councillor
groundwater.
I think we just need to make sure that adding hydrogen peroxide to water is safe for all citizens.
Our engineers wouldn't recommend it as a safe.
Because,
Okay, I don't want to go further with it, but I just want to keep the
all right. Anything else?
Just on the next page down, we changed up, so a lot of this is that servicing 50% town reserve, so we talked about most of this. We did reflect on the wastewater treatment plant loan. Those numbers are as per the 16.3 loan, 50%, all that other stuff. They're terrible, terrible numbers. They're as per that. And other than, let's see if I got any other notes here.
Just can I ask you a question regarding the FCN? When was the time frame for them to release approval of a grant?
I'm not sure, Mayor. And I can tell you even today,
It was
Just-
just in February or?
Well, just today, they still requested some additional information from the engineers, because I was CC'd in the email between FCM and Associated. So I know they're still working through things and wanting a little bit more detail here. So,
Okay.
yeah, I'm not sure. I know they're anxious to close this program, and we are the last application in
There's
this
no more
program.
applications to them.
In the history of the program, we're the last one, and they want to get it put to bed.
We get everything that's like.
That's what I was hoping, is that they just give us.
Okay, sorry for asking.
So that was one, no, it's all good. That's one of the things you'll notice in 242830, which is on page 26 arbitrarily. Over 25 and 26 and 27, we're up to $500,000 in the venture payments. But again, right now, this is funded at 49%. Just under $8 million is a loan here. That's a massive payment. So I'm still cautiously optimistic that never comes down before we start this thing. But that's how it's currently in budget. So we put in the payments accordingly. We've talked about almost all the rest in capital. And I don't think there's really anything else of note. So just any questions on the rest of that? And I will tell you on the electrical on the back, there's been no changes. So like I said, Council, we've got a few things that we're still wanting to do a little bit of work on. We're still transferring the full recreation transfer to reserves. We are still at about a couple $100,000 in water and sewer going to reserves. So there's still decent amounts going there, but we've got to look close at a couple pieces and trim a couple other pieces, because we've had to cut away at some of the transfers to reserves to balance. So I'm trying to work back from that.
So moving forward, and the tweaks that you've got to make for this, are we going to will it be presentable and passable by the 10th of December? That's the plan. Okay.
Yeah, we plan to bring you a fully balanced, as comfortable as we possibly can, with minimal tax revenue increase on the 10th. I think that's
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. That's about it. Please thank Jill and Allan for having reviewed that for us. And it's a lot of work. But it's rather amazing we're so close to having it tidied up. All right, maybe we want to go back to the library issue.
Oh, right.
The library, Jeff, maybe if you want to start to count the budget, it has me concerned in the sense that 90% plus that budget is borne by the taxpayer.
So I just put in here, because it's not last year, Councillor Burton, actually, you might recall, asked if I put something in when you talked about it. Yeah. And it took quite a while. I talked with Municipal Affairs, and they were working on numbers, and the most recent they could give you was 2021. But they finally sent me their spreadsheets. And for what it's worth, if you do, by chance, want to drill down on all kinds of minutiae in those numbers, quite a robust spreadsheet. But I took just a few of the reports. So the first page I put in there was just kind of a comparison of the tax support as a percentage of total revenue between, say, the rate of the pool. We had talked mid-year about our cost recovery of those facilities, so that's not necessarily new news, but our library certainly lags behind our rink and our pool as far as the amount that we have to support through taxation. And for me, I think when you look at the spreadsheets that are in there, we have two things that they should be very indicative, at least to me, that we're maybe not operating that facility how we should be. The first being that we get the designation of being in like the 98th percentile of the amount of municipal funding supporting our library. There's only 6 other libraries in the whole province who have a higher amount per capita, and many of them are up in far north.
219.
Of 219 of them, we sit 6. It comes out in our calculation, they use the 3707 number, or 3704. It's going to put us up probably in the fourth highest, all things being equal. So I think there's a fundamental way we're operating that is so different from almost everyone else, as far as the reliance on municipal funding. And that's also borne out that in the next spreadsheet, and I apologize, these were really long spreadsheets. I gave you one about the self-generated income as a percentage of total revenue, and we are 175th. So it's a very difficult position for us to be 6th on municipal funding reliance, so in the top 98th percentile, and then probably in the 10th percentile for self-generated income. Now, in our operational expense per capita, we're kind of in the middle, we're in the mean, and that's okay. I was glad that that one wasn't, off the charts. The mean on that is 59, and we're at $52 per capita. But just to give some idea, sorry, I just want to scroll back up. The average for municipal contribution per capita in libraries, the mean is $26, and we're at 60. So it's not a little bit above the mean. It's hundreds of % above the mean. Right? And so we need to have some conversation about that. If we weren't so disparate on the two opposite ends of those two categories, I wouldn't be as concerned with it. But there is some concern there administratively about where we're going with this facility. Our support of the library exceeds policing, exceeds fire, it exceeds FCSS, it exceeds the rink, it exceeds the pool, it exceeds the golf course. It's an important facility. I'm not arguing that. How much is a reasonable amount in excess of any other facility that we currently support, any other program that we currently support. So I don't know that there's an answer to that tonight here, but I would have a recommendation, and that might be that either you as a council or you have a committee of council meets with the library board to have some discussion on this. Because again, this isn't a requisition. I want to be clear with that. You have full discretion as to how much of that amount goes back to those they requested.
I really think that a committee meeting with the library board, of which Councillor Jensen should be part of, would be a welcome idea for this council. I don't know that it would be well received by the library, but the library does not have all those comparatives. And for us, it is a disclosure of how it fits in within the Albertan parameters and the impact on our requisition is significant, and they should understand the comparative. I understand this library is extremely well used, but it was the same story when I came about a good review of how the function was a welcome thing, and I think it served us well. It showed where we were deficient, where we needed strengthening, and what we could do with our policies and everything that was part of the governance issue. And I think part of it could be a suggestion for them to start to look at different aspects of their organization, because they provide 16,600, I think. 16,200 comes through line service, fundraising, and interest income. And the rest, which is 323,900 plus, comes from the tip. So it's 2%. So we really found more than 90%. We found 98%. So I know they are an autonomous board, but one is funded so fully, literally, by the town should have a say. Or at least should be able to have a conversation to try to understand what the future will look like. If you have that much on organization, you must have a say. We say we have to have a say for the agri-dom, and we don't even want them in that.
I always like the comparisons of our sister communities over east of us. Grass a little bit different because they're in the school itself, the library is.
Yeah.
But they're at $34.17. Raymond's is at, and they're independent, they're not part of the school system. They're not in the schools anyhow. Raymond is $32.44. We're more than double what's going on there. So we need to know why it's such a big difference between us and them.
Yeah, Councillor Burton took the words right out of my mouth. Jeff, in your analysis, communities like ours, does anything jump out at you that they're doing differently and better, or we're doing worse and poorly, and maybe this committee of council that looks at this might be able to find out what these others are doing so that they're not in the situation. There's got to be a reason why we're this bad.
So I don't know the answer to that, Councillor. I mean, obviously, that has to be drilled down on. At this stage, I just haven't done that. And again, I'm not involved in the day-to-day of the library at all, aside from that, we pay for the manager and then the money that is requested from council. So the day-to-day operations I'm totally unfamiliar with.
What I really think is we need to find a win-win solution. A win-lose solution is not a solution. We've got to find a win-win. And a win-win means that you have to give, you have to take. But you have to come to an understanding that it's not a punishment to look at an organization and try to figure out, can it have better productivity, considering the amount of money we put into it.
So having homeschooled 9 kids, we were very successful. And I thought these were excellent numbers to see that I had suspected last year. The reason that I had suggested that Mr. Kronen and Mr. Grainger come here was to, and they give us their budgets, are as well done as they set the gold standard for budgeting and everything, so I have to for that. But I don't see any structural changes from last year. It looks like business as usual. We were just over 3% last year. If you take out the grants, they're running 3-4% of the money that they raise. And like Councillor Cord, if you look at Raymond, Sterling, McGrath, and Cloudy, you should be average those were more than twice. There's no similarity in any metric between us and our neighbors. Potential averages, and like you said, the communities where they bring it in by dogs that are at the top, and then us. So we're right there. And if you do it per person, that's about $75 a person. So I took the liberty of phoning Chinook Arch Foundation, or what it's called, the system this afternoon. And I said, are there any other models that communities are using? And so there are 2 other models. And one is called Library to You, or Library to Us, whatever it's called. And it's a system. So you go online and you request the books and mail to you, mail them back. That's one system. The other system, I asked them kind of truck or thing like that, because for $284,000 a year, there have to be other models to look at. And she said they do have a truck, or multiples of them, that go in Lethbridge, the truck mobile, and what the only place that they go to outside of Lethbridge is Culver's. The Culver's has that, where you can go once a week or twice a week, or whatever it is. You go truck and you go and get your book going to abandon our physical library. I think we have to look at something different.
Are you proposing that we close our library and use these other two
No, I just
systems?
said the opposite, is that right now I'm not proposing anything other than we do at the Mayor said, which is it has to be closely looked at. And saying, if there are other models that are working, she did tell me, she said, the number of audios, she said, so much is digital now.
That's expensive.
Right, but she did say that that's really, it's doing this towards audio from physical books. And I know there are lots of advantages to having your kid with a real book. There's no question about that. You can't just shoulder shrug every and you write the check and next year it's the same process. It can't be that. So I agree that we should look at it with a view to sustaining what we have, but we at least have to put out averages. If we used that average, we'd be giving them, instead of 284, we'd be giving them 102. That's if they're right in the middle, if they're satisfied with average.
Okay, there is, I know the library always brings a lot of emotions when we have the manager come. They do a fantastic job. But for us, we need to see, can we do more with less?
Because if I'm thinking with my heart, I just write the check.
Exactly.
If I'm thinking with my head, we got to take a look at this.
I totally agree. Councillor Jensen.
Okay, so, since I got these documents from Jeff, I've came through the meeting. So,
Glad you enjoyed the humor.
not really, actually. I don't quite understand what you want to do, but anyway, I'm okay with it. So, so you calculate that we're serving roughly 17,500. So if you put it on the scale of per capita, that puts us 2, which is at the bottom, which is finished. Makes us rank 152nd, 119. So, my point is that we're really looking at apples. Like look at all of the people that we serve. We have tried to get the county to put in more money. And we petitioned 80 units, and this is their latest thing on it. I looked it up, copied it off. 80 units is now awaiting and published based on what I've heard through consultation, which means we're not going to do anything the next year. So nothing's going to happen on that. You look at comparisons of their rink and that, you have to realize that the rink is open for 5 months out of the year. The pool is 3 months, And then you look at their expenses, it's almost double what their revenues are. And then people move over to the library and move out. So let me finish. When you start looking at we spend our money on, and according to the library, we don't have to give a line item of what we spend our money on. But a few things that we spend. They put in new doors. One of the chairs was being. They put in new ACs with covers. We put in new lighting. We put in new furniture, new computers, new boardrooms, and upgrades all over the place. And that's what your money is being spent. We don't come to you and say, hey, we want to run computers. So that's because that's you just said going to electronics and everything. So I don't know if you're really comparing apples to apples. You know, is it fair? I don't. I think that in fairness, and you said this, the library doesn't have all the documents, and that's not fair to them.
Right.
And they should have the right to look at these
Well, this is the
and to make a decision. I don't know if that needs to be a committee or if it's just the library. I don't know how this works with it. The library is so different from everything else. But you know, I was also, just in closing, I was also, years ago, Jeff gave me that book, 13 Ways to Build Your and use it. So in chapter 4, it says shop elsewhere. You know, if you close your library, which in that video clip, you don't go on at 4 suggest to just shut it down and not have it anymore. But if that's what you're going to do, then you will find less or wherever else to use the library. So, is that what we want? Are we trying to revitalize our community? And what's wrong with having a really good library? You know, I don't know. In that book, it says, nothing in the community will show any signs of success if it starts closing.
I do not disagree with any of what you say, Councillor, but I think numbers, yeah, I can speak differently. I kind of don't agree totally with your approach with the numbers, but that's another time discussion.
I think Mr. Ford didn't want his plant shut down. He was making the point that we have towards looking at what's going to keep people. The opposite is and your numbers with respect are correct. So we're only, in this list of 219, there are only 25 counties and communities listed. So everybody else on this list services people from the counties around it. So it is apples to apples. And this isn't just apples to apples or my apples to apples. This is its own board of apples to apples. You just pluck these from the tree that they already grew. You didn't create these, you just gathered them and presented it.
I understand.
So,
but the
so
county
your
is
own,
not represented.
my turn. So your own society has said that this is the apples to apples. These are the metrics. The reason they go to all this work, this is a lot of work. The reason they do this is so that we can have this discussion. It's not to point fingers, not to say somebody's doing that. There's none of that numbers. They're just saying these are the numbers. We be responsible, and the library management being responsible, people who pay our taxes in this town being responsible. We would then take this information, we look at it, and we say, okay, there are 3 metrics. Jeff told me that there are many more metrics that he didn't put there. But we do reporting, and that's, I'm not pointing finger at anything, that's a fact from these numbers that the Library Association itself generates to be helpful. So we would be remiss if we just, again, if Jeff has one department for me, he's going to sit down with him and say, how can we improve this? And so I disagree with you that these are not accurate, that they don't reflect realities that I think we need to do it. I really support the mayor's position that somebody needs to look at it. Yes, somebody does.
Thank you, Councillor Burton.
Councillor Jensen, and I'm not sure about your numbers either, but I do agree with one thing you said. And it should embarrass them to no end that the county, in that block of numbers there, their contribution to the annual contribution is a paltry $10,000 a year. library should be the same as CC, the emergency services. We split the costs with, 50-50 for a new fire truck with the county, for example. That's the way this should be, because their population potentially is roughly the same kind of population that we're serving, and yet we're paying way more than the lion's share of this. It's wrong. They should be.
Councillor, when we had a discussion at the ICS, there was one councillor there who was actually the lead at the time, who said something that was rather interesting. He said, from the number that you provide us, what we see is that every year you pay more and more and more, and you seek better productivity. What about starting to figure out what it should take to run a library and cap it, and have them learn within an in? And that was one of the biggest reasons why I did not want to participate with more money.
And that may have
into
merit.
the ICS. One of the
Yeah,
one of the
$10,000 to what we're paying.
you don't need to tell me. We went to batch for our library.
It's shameful.
But whichever, that's not the shame. What I feel that the model we're running is not a good model. And we asked them to send someone to sit on a library board, which the board always would have loved to have, but they denied.
So, Councillor Jensen, do you think it would be appropriate for us to make a motion to direct administration to send the library board this information that we have been given?
Oh, absolutely.
And that's a yes, good. So, I think it would be appropriate for you to make that motion that we direct administration to send the library board this information so that they are understanding. Because I didn't know either until we got this. I think information is power. So I think that's where it starts. Let's send them the information and then see if we hear anything back with ideas or answers. Just a thought.
Can you give Jeff a chance?
Not opposed to a
I would
motion
love
on it,
to.
but all of you in your emails now have the link to municipal affairs where I got all the information. So it's readily available. You just search Alberta Library Statistics. You're at the page.
Oh, Wednesday.
So Councillor Jensen, whoever wants to send it, you all have it.
Perfect. So
I can send this to us onto the library.
in your email.
Yep.
We just sent it to you.
Good. Can I add something or go ahead, Councillor?
Okay, along with that, as I went through this, and I saw that people were getting grants and fundraising. And I know I sat on that library board, and I thought, what are other libraries doing for fundraising? And anytime I go to any meetings, I go, what are you doing for fundraising? How are you fundraising? Where are you getting the grants? And just 2 weeks ago, I sat with a group from Raymond, and they have some board members that all they do is search for grants. They get fundraising. They have friends at the library that does all of their fundraising and whatnot. Those are some things that our board needs to look at in my opinion. But I'm wondering what the possibility is. As I looked at this, I sat there and I thought, how are these people getting all of this money? And where are they getting it from? I'm wondering, is that possible or appropriate for us to investigate and see where that money is coming from, how they're doing it?
Unless you get the budget of each of those, which I'd like to tell you the truth, public. Go ahead.
I have a motion I'd like to make, but my motion wants to be made first.
Okay.
Is your motion on? Can I make one question?
No, that's not.
Okay,
That's
one quick
the
comment.
deal with library.
Okay, can you, Councillor,
You can go ahead, yes.
okay, I'm getting.
Councillor Burton wanted to speak.
So I just wanted further to my last point about, you know, we can't claim all of the reserve and all of the county, because in the county and immediately surrounding it, we have libraries in Raymond, McGrath, McLeod, Pincher Creek, and Pillsbury. So it'd be just like Pillsbury saying, well, we supply the reserve and the county, we supply part of it. Pincher, McLeod, Raymond, all of those are going to supply some of the county. Most are going to supply some of the reserve. So you can't, you know, just wrap the numbers up, tell this expenditure is so small per person. That doesn't make any sense.
No. That was my opinion too. All right, can I just add, Councillor Kenley, there's something I wanted to ask as I presented the idea. Do we still want to have a representation of council to meet with the library and try to work together toward a solution?
It is not what Councillor Jensen is. She is a representative of us. She speaks on our behalf.
It's a little bit more complex than that, I think. If you want to be a think tank, you need more than one person of council
I
to
see
do
what you're
that.
saying.
What if, like Councillor Brown suggested, what if
We
initially
need to do that.
all that happens
Yes.
is we give
Yeah.
them information, and that's what will happen. That information, you just look internally at some things, and then come out, and then you take it from there.
I mean, it needs to be analyzed, right? It needs to be kind of,
Let's let them have the first go.
right. No, I agree with Charles.
So do we need to make a motion for the administration to,
That you do.
Yes.
okay, make a motion for the administration to look at other communities to see where they're getting
We've done that.
No, that's not where we're going. The first motion is to provide the data
through the
to the we need to
Have it. We want it to come from us, right? That was my point. So that would be the motion. That was the motion I saw, is we start by saying, library, this is the information that you also want to make sure that you have it, because they already have it. But what if they don't? So that they can see where we're coming from when we're looking at the numbers. Whether we agree or disagree, we need the same. You're saying apples to apples. Well, let's make sure they have the same apples that we're looking at. So I think I would like to make a motion to direct administration to send this information that was given to council to the library board, so that they can understand why we're looking at their numbers. Well, yeah, that's
the solution. You need a think tank. It's
Yeah.
going to
I hear you. So that's on the table. Going with.
None? All in favor? All right, let's move on. All those are good point, Councillor, and none of us wants to shut the library.
I want to make a motion as well. I think it's prudent of us to do this, to investigate what's going on. And I would like to direct administration to look into other communities and how they're running their libraries and comparing, let's say, apples to apples, how our close-knit communities are doing it. Maybe how everyone is running, how they're running them, why they're running them, the way they're running them, including grants and all sources of income and revenue that they're bringing in.
That is a motion. You want to question?
yes, that information also needs to go to the library.
We'll start here.
Anything that we learn on that needs to also.
Yeah, it will come to us first. We will need to understand it, and there we'll pass it.
I just don't want to cut a $300,000 check when other towns are cutting $120,000 checks. There's got to be there's something, and maybe it's simple, and maybe our library. Let's come to that.
Councillor, when you say others, are you thinking like kind of the ring in the grass?
surround, yeah.
Pension house?
Do you want me to name them?
No, I'm just saying, if that's what you have, that's what I have in mind, you're gonna put my.
I don't need us to look into Calgary, I mean, I want to,
No.
we're south, we're in the southern Alberta, let's just,
Let's try to find comparables.
yeah, what's going on?
Okay, all in favor? All right, Jeff, I hate to have push a little bit more work on you.
Yeah, here we
That's
are.
the way it goes.
Big motion, break for supper.
Okay, we're going to break for
6:30.
supper, 15 minutes. All in favor? Thank you. favor? Let's move on. We're going to skip 5B. We're going to go to 5C. 5C, bylaw amendment 1880. Are you sure of the number?
Into I.
Okay, I. Because I was thinking this French. Okay, so Jeff, I don't think you made any changes from the draft that was presented except to reflect what we wanted the business rates that those
Oh, no, that was already first reading. We made no changes since first reading.
Okay, fine. All right, so in that sense, all what we need to consider is second and third reading.
The motion for second reading of bylaw amendment 1582I.
Thank you. Any questions? No?
Just again, I'm voting against this simply, I just don't want to see a raise in residents.
All right. All in favor? Thank you. Against? Thank you. So we have third reading, Councillor Burton.
I'll move third reading of 1582I.
Thank you. So send comment, opposed? All in favor? Thank you. Against? Thank you, Councillor. All right, let's go to draft bylaw 1719, snow removal bylaw. Joshua, you may want to enlighten us.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So this draft is before you based on a request from Leor. So he, during his time here, was continuing to see hazardous sidewalks and wanted us to move away from just a basic time requirement so our bylaw states that snow needs to be cleared within 24 hours of when all snow falling, and more, so the clock is on and on. And so effectively that made some hazardous sidewalks for the community. And so what this bylaw did is basically take the format of the unsightly property bylaw and apply it to sidewalks. So that's the first thing, is that there's a number of standards that the bylaw enforcement officer can use to determine whether a sidewalk is hazardous or not, and that would be the basis for following up with enforcement. The other piece is the old bylaw always allowed snow or restricted snow to be placed on public property. This continues that. There are commercial properties, so within the downtown area. This also carries forward, but as that snow deposited on any highway, which would include ditches, needs to be done in a way that isn't hazardous or create hindrance for town staff who are applying.
Okay, can I ask?
Sure.
Joshua, here's a little bit of my concern with the downtown. Very often the snow is pushed right and away from the sidewalk, but you come out of your car in the parking lot and you have a drift of 50 centimeter plus to go through because it's right smack there. The area that are marked you want those people who come out of their car to go through that house when they already have difficulty moving. Now what? So I don't know how we can fix that problem, because I understand that workers even come in the middle of the night and clean the highway, but then they push really the snow where the car parking is, and then emergency add to that. And sometimes we don't have the chance to coordinate with Public Works to remove that before the business area. So I'm trying to understand how we can fix the problem.
So can I just clarify your concern? It's that Volker will sometimes have drift, and then property owners will contribute to that drift, so people who are doing angle parking can't get
not so much get
Getting
through,
from-
is that
To the
people-
sidewalk is what you're saying.
to the sidewalk, from the parking area to the sidewalk. Snow in the parking area due to the drifting. And then there's snow on the other side from the merchants who clear their sidewalk, but brought the snow right at the edge of the sidewalk and the parking area. And so there you have drifts, not very pleasant.
Mayor, even Chinooks, you can step out, you can hit 5 inches of water, like literally, as you step out of your vehicle. The snow kind of captures it there and it just pools. I don't know what you do about
So
it.
I really don't know. That has been a perennial issue, but I don't really know how we fix it, because even with our little tractor that we have to remove snow, it doesn't always coordinate with what the public works can do, because they're all trucking the snow away.
So first of all, I think Cardston has the most amazing snow removal. We are so good. I love that whole fantastic way to not have this is we all just move down to somewhere hot. Because no, but just hear me out. Because I'm completely serious actually, because we get snow, there's going to be problems with it. The town isn't going to do a good enough job. Voter 7 isn't going to do enough. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like either way you're double danged, because you just are. The businesses have to push it to get it out of the way. Where are they supposed to put it? In the back of where, right? To put it out on Main Street. Voter 7 goes down like 8 o'clock in the morning. Everything. So I just feel like I truly believe that, bless your heart, Mayor, but I don't think that there is that bibbidi-bobbidi boo to make that happen.
Well, this is what I say, it's a perennial issue. We haven't found a solution, but I'm wondering, how do we make it safer, especially in those areas that are not handicap parking?
Here's an issue we can solve. Somebody on the weekend, somebody on the school division, they plowed where people pick up their kids at the elementary school, they put it all in the middle of the road. So it was a real mess there until they came by and took care of 7th Street. The school division probably should be shoving all that snow right in the middle of the road.
Yeah, it was not pretty at elementary school, I must say.
I got no issue with the content of the bylaw.
No, me neither.
But enforcement is always, proof in the pudding. And I happen to be walking around my neighborhood today on 2nd Street East, and my question is about people who are absent. So on 2nd Street East, between 7th where clearly, anyway, they're absent. We got almost 40 cents in this hill the other day. And that's all I do, because the people aren't home to clean it. So what happens under this bylaw in that scenario?
In that scenario, the town will go and clean it, and after invoicing them, if there's no paying for it within 30 days, it can be placed on taxes.
Okay, so there is a solution bylaw as to, and obviously nobody's living there in these spots, and because of that, the snow is not being cleared off their driveways or the sidewalks.
Right.
But they can always
So if
Go
I
ahead.
may,
Go ahead.
the concern about what's happening with the park area along Main Street, that would be something that can be solved operationally, maybe with Volker, but it's going to take some investigation on our part, which we'd certainly do. This bylaw, a key difference to it is it allows the town to address issues like Councillor Court. Our current bylaw doesn't address that. And we would like that capability to follow up with people and find them if they're causing a hazard or a hindrance like that on municipal roadways. So what I would suggest is to read this again, pass it, and we can amend after or see if there's something else that can be put in this bylaw to address the parking along Main Street. But that is something that can be done concurrently with the passage of this bylaw.
Yeah, I think we can pass first reading and if we need.
First reading's done, yeah.
Oh, yes, that's right. Sorry about that. So, go ahead, Councillor.
I would like to make second reading of bylaw 1595,
1719.
versus, pass the old one, 1719.
Okay. Any more discussion? We raised a concern we have here and now for further investigation. All in favor? Thank you. All right. We may well do third, and so that'll be good for us.
I would move third reading of bylaw 1719, snow removal,
Okay.
as
All in-
presented.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. All right. Maybe now we can start to move a little quicker. Maybe, not sure. 6A, motion from the planning session. That's to get, we need a motion to try to get.
Did you jump on me?
Maybe what it was.
You jumped a lot on, we still have 3 items for 5E.
Are you done?
I know you're trying to put it along there, I appreciate it. Deferred them once, let's try to do it again.
Okay, the authorization expenditure, that is something that in case of a disaster emergency, you wanted to get $30,000 to start spending money.
Yeah.
We had to.
Like I said in the background, we had this drill, and Alberta Emergency Management was asking, well, what's your policy on emergency expenditures? And I said, well, I don't have one. And so I tried to be careful in this. There are things that have to be triggered. I can't just say, well, that's an emergency. Say local emergency, or we've activated the emergency response center. Those two things happened, and then I changed the will to show word that Councillor pointed out last meeting.
Councillor Burton.
One question, when I reread it, was, should we, I fully agree with the concept of it, should we designate in there where those funds come from? In other words, we said, okay, if there's an emergency, this is like our emergency fund, it's this reserve, or it's that reserve, or, because you're going to have to make that decision. So would it be prudent for us to just decide ahead of time?
In general, it comes from general reserve.
So, maybe, and here's the trick with it. So, let's say it's an emergency that happens this time of year, end of November, and we say that's what we prescribed, but you spent it already in the year.
No, and that's why I used the word reserve. I was saying maybe we have a reserve.
Oh, that's just that 30,000.
Well,
Right.
no, not just, but if we said, for example, and I don't know our books well enough, I apologize, but if we had, because I thought of that too, if
Yeah.
it's this time of year, maybe there isn't that much left, right? But if
Right.
we had some other reserve fund, that we said, plan, you know, if you're going to dip from there, because it's not something that we're likely
Oh, I
to
see.
need the next day,
Yeah.
the next week, or even maybe the next month, you know what I mean? Like just, if we're short, we'll always have a pool of 50,000 or whatever the number is over here. But it could be multi-designated.
Yeah.
Councillor Burton, there is something that Jeff needs to do if we put a motion forward. Within so many days, he would have to try to get council to approve, to ratify it, at which time we can indicate
Right, I
where
agree
it's
with
going.
all of that. I just
But
wondered,
you
just
want
a question in the
days
interim,
off.
do we want to say, yeah, by all means do it, and here's the
Yeah, I
just
mean,
a thought.
if there's a level of confidence as council, I'm just racking my brain about, was it?
Yeah.
Like I said, it's some arbitrary, it's
Maybe-
MR, right? Or it's
Yeah,
something that
something
you
like
don't
that.
spend.
That's something right.
Okay, so that is quite good. Anything else you want to talk about?
You're okay with the motion to approve it?
Okay,
Appreciate
so,
it.
Councillor,
Well, she didn't say it first.
no.
That's brown Burton.
You want
I got you. I make a motion to approve policy number 2, first reading.
No, it's a
Just policy. Yep.
authorization of expenditure. All in favor? Thank you. All right, so the next one is the draft bylaw amendment 93B, garbage and recycling bylaw. You want to take it away?
I hope it's not too different. So we're bringing this to you to look at 2% increase in garbage and recycling. The reason is some of our contracts hinge to CPI in the garbage service. So if we don't do something and there is a, say, 2 or 3% increase in the CPI, then we start just what it's worth. It's cents per month per resident. It might be 15, 20 cents. It's very, very minor. But we are looking for first reading on 93B.
I would motion that we, motion that we draft bylaw amendment 1693 first reading.
Okay, that we approve. Yeah. Councillor Grainger, you wanted to speak?
No, I was
to it?
going to do the motion.
Okay, all right. Well, the next one. All in favor? Okay, so bylaw 1718. Joshua, do you have any changes to the on-site property bylaw? There are no changes?
No changes. Full opinion for you, and yeah, no issues with the process or concern.
Perfect. Councillor Grainger?
I would move second reading from bylaw 1718 on site safety.
Okay. All in favor? Thank you. Who wants to make the third one? Councillor
So
Kennedy?
question on your background, are we not that first take to?
I thought when I did it, there was some changes.
Sorry, but
I was wrong.
Okay, I'll make a motion to, you got me going.
Good catch, Councillor.
To approve bylaws 1718, third reading.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you. We're moving on, councillors.
You just wait.
Under 6, no question. So that was the stakeholders meeting that we want to have with Freddy's to try to, and with Freddy, stakeholders of Freddy, to try to discuss the future of the model we have right now. Councillor Brown?
I would like to make a motion to direct administration to commence planning a meeting with the community stakeholders related to the downtown vagrancy issue. The meeting will be held in the first quarter of 2012.
Perfect. Questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you very much. Now, we have a follow-up from the previous delegation. Cardston and Land of Town. And if you remember, there were 2 presentations. One to talk about the relocation and protocol, and the other one with the video, what you call it, and that also the concern of the money. Right now, we have $2,500 allocated to just paying to, and we were told that that's probably so I was thinking that maybe where we want to and see if in 2025 to add some money to the commuter. So your take on it.
I did receive an email, I don't know how many did, from Annick. Is that how you say her name? Annick. or just we asked, we had allocated the $2,000 and actually, of course it is, and so, and they were very happy to keep that program going. They thought that was very important, and so we've already allocated money, so and we continue.
I think one of the ran first brought up was fund was that they were also using fund through them for like taxes and discussions with Annick. I said the council, original council motion that identified was crystal clear to stay in the and nothing else. And it's in the budget, that line item in the budget, but I think it might be worth some kind of communication with them that it is strictly.
It's not what we're doing right now. Right now, we're relocating as many as possible.
But we're not putting them back where we got them.
We are.
Okay, you know what? Let's get administration to clarify all that.
So, what Nick and Melody are doing is they're working in their colonies. They have their colonies of cats and they trap. We're not currently doing that. We're homing them. So the town is trapping animals. Homing.
But where's our money?
So
Which activity?
it's a little column A, a little column B.
Because they're a cat, and so how does the vet know?
Well, so most will be spent by Lendpop. So we give it to the vet and say, look, and Councillor Grainger, we had this conversation a couple of years ago. There wasn't all these other, $600 an animal to do everything under the sun.
Yes.
We appreciate sometimes that needs done, but that wasn't for this money, so I think that's clear. So yeah,
Initially they were using that money, and that's why they went through it so
yeah,
quickly.
for sure.
Okay. Councillor Jensen, Councillor Burton.
So, in talking to, they've already gone through 500 provision. Yes, it goes to, I'm in favor of, I am not in favor of them the vaccinations, but they do need to do them, which is like because they've got to be able to tell somehow if they catch one, if they're done or not. So I'm in favor of the tattoos, which is really not my I'm, in questioning, should we put more money into it? Knowing that they're very vigilant in doing it, and like Jeff just said, is they are putting the cats back in colonies. So it's two different things. And then money are going choosing the 2,500, and I'm not sure what we are choosing.
We have other options.
Okay, so it's two different things. So with that in mind, and knowing that they've run out of money already, and in a quest to get more cats done, I would not be opposed to putting it up to $3,000, $500 a year. But that's what that's what I would, I think, $500 a year, well, it's not that much more.
I would be in favor of putting 2,500 in if it's home only, but if some of it goes to putting cats back, then I'm opposed to it.
But the money's in the budget for now. So the money is allocated.
Well, but I don't know that we knew what we did. Is my last question. This is what we got. So, yeah, I'm opposed to putting cats back. I've been the recipient of cats that are rehomed. So I'm for that, but I'm very against putting them back.
Councillor Court, Councillor.
I was just saying, I'm with the status quo, $200. You do what you do with it.
Grainger.
$500 isn't a ton of money, so that wouldn't bother me, but I think it's important to recognize that the reluctant to read the motion was spay, neuter, and release, trap, neuter, and release, TMR. What are you supposed to do with it? Talk to Mercury or Melody and Anna supposed to do with a cat that's benefited from the $2,500 of the cat. So now you have a spayed feral cat. What are you supposed to do with that cat? But he's saying he's opposed to it. What's your answer to that, Councillor?
Well, you're listening to the fellow councillors twice a week. My answer to you is that we decide however many cats we're going to have facilities for at the town, or wherever it is that we keep them. And when it's full, if we do our very best to rehome them, and bless everybody who tries to do that. I promise to bless them. But it's first we catch another cat, then we eat the first one, and we just through. I can't support putting them back to the neighbors and tell some taxpayer he pays to have it neutered and put back in his neighbor's yard. Can't do that.
And Sir Mayor, if I can, so it's fine if it's Leo and our administration doing it. What I'm talking about, the $2,500 has got nothing to do with the town. That is people like Anik and Melody trapping the cats and taking them to the vet, and the vet uses our $2,500 contribution for the costs. That cat is neutered, and then Anik and Melody are taking that cat back and putting it back into the colony.
I don't want to use tax dollars for that.
But that was the original.
That was the new motion. There's no money left in the pool.
Well, it isn't a motion, it's a line item in the budget.
It doesn't have to be, is what he's saying.
Well, okay, so what is Anik and not that Leo is doing? My question is, what
I'm
is
responsible for anything that they do. I'm responsible for how we spend taxpayers' money.
okay, so you don't want to fund what they're doing.
That's what I'm saying. Well, I don't want to fund it.
Cats are going back into the colony.
All right, guys. Okay, a little bit of order here.
Okay, so I hear you. So I think, is it not the same cat? So we spayed, we neuter the cat. They go back out. Then aren't they being caught again by Leor? And aren't they then being rehomed?
So I was spending the money to do that when they're getting, like, we're double dipping.
This is where I'm going. So I'm just like, right? Like, how do cats that we're picking up, that we're rehoming, are they not? We can talk about cats for so long, but
Yeah, $2,500.
To me, those are the cats that we're picking up and rehoming, so we're in the colony. So I don't think we need to put more money in there. Because in my head, we're rehoming back and giving them a better.
Okay.
That's my question, Councillor.
So I have
Don't
to
know.
tattoo.
I don't know.
Councillor Grainger, tattooing an animal is not a bad thing. It's a form of identification.
$35.
If you don't identify what you are working on, then you forever will be working on, you needs to be tattooed. So, Councillor Jensen, do you want to add something to communication? Maybe what we need to do is, how many of you are comfortable leaving the $2,500 in the budget the way it is? It's in the budget. And I know that we need to carry on very much in the discussion. Let's go to 6B2, Cardston and District Chamber of Commerce. So that will be an item you want to discuss now, or do you want
I
to
can
discuss
discuss
later?
that. Yeah, Council, there's an item in your closed session with proposal related to this, but for
Right.
the open session, my opinion, you have a couple of things to discuss. The request was that we would apply on behalf of the Chamber for the grant because we're an eligible applicant and they're not. And that the Chamber would put up the matching funds that were required. So in its simplest form, we can do it. What we'll talk about a little later is I just tried to bring some structures to what the grant rules might look like. And if the town wants to have some influence in the deliverables of the grant, that's the question we talked about. I just can't expose those people's proposal in public when it hasn't, we haven't gone through that process. But
Okay.
in its simplest form, if council is okay to be the applicant, as long as, and whatever financial share you wish, then that can be the first part that we can discuss, and then we could talk later, or you can postpone the decision on this till after the closed session as well.
So, Jeff, let me go back to that meeting we had. One question that was asked from somebody from here, I don't heard was, are you intended for the town to have $10,000 toward that application? That Councillor entered. And he said it would be nice, but he also said, if the town does not give the $10,000 but support the application, we can find the $10,000. So I hope they have the $10,000, but I totally support the idea of doing an application for them, and especially in the light of what you offered for further discussion. I think there is merit in application.
I would agree with that part of it. I've got concerns about the $10,000. Business people that are making money. I'd rather spend that $10,000 on nonprofit groups and groups in need in the community as opposed to giving $10,000 of our taxpayers' money to businesses that way.
Well, if we gave them all the facilities we can get to write the grant, for them to have enough of that grant, if they can find the 10,000, will be the best.
We've got to put something in, and we can use that money in better places.
But we can bring them the idea of the expertise and
Sure,
to do
that's okay.
an application. That for me would be important. To see them successful really would be, we need to have a viable chamber.
I'm all about supporting the chamber. We just don't have that $10,000. But what I can say is the Economic Growth and Development Board, previously, that we used to have, there was $7,500 set aside in the budget that would go towards marketing, advertising, for different things in the community. That's where the bike, they came to us, we gave them money for it, and it came out of that account. So my thought was, when I met with Jeff earlier, we do have that $7,500 that is allocated. Could we not, and I don't know we can do whatever council, I'm just throwing this out there. Would you all support the idea of taking a couple thousand out of that economic growth and development and putting it into this, so that they put 8,000 towards it and we put 2, plus our expertise have it allocated?
Okay, so there is a model.
Just a thought.
It would have done, but we're doing a 50-50, which would be 5,000, you're talking 2,000. Is more practical. And how many of you could support 2,000 of that funding? to go towards the 10,000.
It's already in this budget.
I think just to have our
Okay.
chamber active.
All right, so we'll give $2,000. Can we, please go ahead.
I would like to make a motion that the town of Kronen support the chamber in applying for the, what kind of grant is it called? I don't have it in front of me.
It's small community opportunity program.
Yeah.
Small community opportunity program, and help them with the application and put towards $2,000 towards
Coming from,
economic growth and development, tourism. Yep.
okay. All right, so we have a good motion on the table. Discussion. All in favor? Thank you. Wow, I'm impressed. Okay, the next one is reports. There is quite a few of them. Councillor, you can choose not to answer. In one of the report on the library, in a minute, it says that Marsha made a motion to go in camera. That a matter or was it a business matter? No. I just wanted to know if it was personal. Okay, so it was business related. Thanks. Okay. Any other question regarding those reports? No. CPO report. Leo had a little bit. He wrote his report. You can see his frustration in that report. And his frustration is with the increase of traffic that is generated by the fact that we are feeding a lot of the homeless, which originally was the intent, but has attracted the same way as when we used to do the soup kitchen, 3 times the amount of people. And that's not sustainable for the businesses around. They have difficulty coping with that, attracting people to their stores, and Leo with the managing the problem. So his recommendation is quite something we discussed at this table, is the question of relocation possibly of 2 businesses, one being the bottle depot, that is an issue, and the other one being that maybe the location for the feeding program at Freddie, bringing people from the reserve to the end of the maybe not the best model. So I think when we have that conversation and that committee, all that needs to be brought to the surface, analyzed and dealt with, and try to see if we can find there also a win-win solution to keep the super compassionate in what they're doing, looking at what they're doing, but also in controlling crowds for us, which becomes a safety issue for us all.
Your question, do we have in our current budget anything in the event that after that meeting the town should own some land and use it for these type of things, you know,
Like a reserve of
yeah, do
land?
we have anything there? So I just anticipate, let's say that the conclusion is something like you said, moving what we're doing at Freddy's to somewhere, maybe might require a lot of building something. Would that be, you're starting from zero, or is something there already?
But there is a third solution that Leo kind of alluded to, is that to revive the working relation
Sure, and all that's on the
with
table. I'm just
Moses
saying,
shelter
agreed with all
and
that.
and
Just
bring
in the
all that
event-
back.
But in the event we decided,
Yeah.
you know, if we had this, say, for example, decided here, whatever, it doesn't matter. Do we have any funds or are we from zero is the question?
Well, I don't think that's
Well, we didn't allocate, it would have been a wild stab in the budget, but you always have, and don't hold me to this, I didn't bring it with me, but for recess.
Very fun.
Yeah.
yeah.
I want to say the four council.
Yeah. So there is.
It's around, just, I had thought in the back of my mind that it would have been fun.
Yeah, it's a land reserve.
I think Leor's recommendation was crystal clear and very strong. We heard the same kind of thing from Sergeant Wright. Jeff's own research, looking at surrounding communities a few weeks ago, as to why Fort McLeod doesn't really have a problem like we've got a problem on our main street, is, providing facilities in the downtown core that draws them to the downtown core. Fort McLeod got was more on the way. So I think that we have some information already that's in a direction.
That's what I anticipate.
Yeah.
So,
I think.
and if we agree with that direction, then it behooves us that we to look at doing something, maybe spending some money to try and put some of those things into effect. And if it means moving people and moving the Freddy operation, for lack of a better word, to some other location that doesn't draw people straight down Main Street from Moses Lake to there, to seriously consider.
Okay. All right. So I think all that will be part of the committee in the first quarter of 2025. Thank you for your input, councillors. Budget actual report, you have a report that Jill put together. You can see we're pretty well on track. And then you have a lot of correspondence. Oh, there's one that is interesting. That's special for Councillor Grainger. 9C, Associated Engineering. Wouldn't you know? Then have a reception in Lethbridge, and we invited, and we love to delegate you to that invitation. How's that?
Sorry, what's the... No, I don't know.
December 5th. You're still there, no? You're still there, Councillor, and we thought that would be make you tickle pink.
Well, not necessarily pink, but...
No, but we thought you would be.
You can do some interesting.
You can do some
I
lobbying.
can talk about water treatment to the Cardston home.
Yeah, totally.
I don't mind going, but if somebody would like to come along with me, I would appreciate it. No?
Councillor, you don't have to go. We just.
Okay, I'll see.
Yeah.
You got till the 23rd.
Except we have to allow for the per diem.
Okay, well, how about this? If I agree to go, does council allow me to do mileage and per diem to go to? Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Make a motion to support per diem mileage. He doesn't really need mileage though if he takes the town car, which costs the taxpayers us.
Yeah, I take my notes. I'm so comfortable.
We'll see.
Anyway, I make a motion to support Councillor Grainger in going to the what is it called?
AE client reception.
AE client reception for him to receive per diem
in eventuality we goes.
In the event.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you. All right, so the rest is all invitations to seminars. There's a letter of thanks from the Festival of Lights.
I could just comment on those legal seminars.
Yes,
I
that'd be good.
Yeah, they were really good. I went last year online as one of the not the person who but I don't think I can right now. I suggest is that
Somebody should go.
either administrator or assistant administrator because they're just very relevant to everything that
Councillor Burton, it has been quite traditional for us to always have some representation there. In the past, we go as a full council. Now we try to be a little bit more careful with our money.
yeah.
So very often we have administration that goes. Maybe Joshua will go this year.
That was going to be my suggestion.
Yeah, exactly.
No, they're good.
Direct
Okay, good.
administration.
And so I think.
No, I didn't notice that before they send one online to Calgary.
The one, the brown big one is in Calgary. The other two, no, there is one in Calgary, right? And there is March the 7th.
So I'm just asking, are they
And the
available
full-
online?
It's February 6th.
Do you know what? I do not see it as being online.
I'll make the motion if we need a motion. That we send a representative from the
Yeah.
administration to both of those seminars. I don't know if you need a motion, but maybe not.
Yeah, Jeff, we thought that, well, would be a good choice to go.
I think I can go this year.
Maybe that's
Very
go.
valid.
Yeah.
February 6th.
I don't know in which shape I will be, otherwise I would love to. But I don't know if I will be in shape at all. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to vote.
Okay. Yeah, so we delegate that to Josh. All in favor? Okay. Jeff, if somebody else wants to go there from council, we have to let you know fairly quickly, right?
I think administration can figure out who they're sending, but they should send someone, I guess.
Okay, maybe you can give us a... Okay. The last one, 9F. The town of Colville is inviting to a parade. Is it 29th of November, I think? Yeah. So we, in general, never done the Colville parade. So I don't know if anybody is so interested to